March 6, 1944, high above Brandenburg, the sky looked clean and endless, a hard blue bowl stretching to the edge of the world. At 28,000 feet, Major Hans Kogler felt the oxygen mask bite into his face, the rubber stiff with cold as if it had turned to stone. Frost crept along the canopy of his Messerschmitt Bf 109 G6, and the thin air carried every sound through his headset with an eerie clarity. Below him, Germany lay quiet and distant. Ahead, somewhere beyond the glare of the sun, was the bomber stream his ground controllers had promised would be vulnerable. Unescorted. Alone. Easy prey. Then the radio crackled, sharp and frantic, shattering the illusion of control. Achtung! American fighters, single engine, altitude 12 o'clock high. The voice hesitated, then rushed on. Over Brandenburg. Kogler felt his stomach drop. Brandenburg meant Berlin was close. Too close. Single-engine American fighters had no business being here. Not at this depth. Not this far inside the Reich. It defied everything the Luftwaffe believed to be true. The P-47 Thunderbolt could barely scrape German airspace before turning back. The P-38 Lightning might reach Hanover on a perfect day. But Berlin? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He looked up, squinting through the glare, and saw them. Silver shapes slicing through the thin air, wings squared at the tips, moving with an ease that spoke of confidence rather than desperation. These were not thunderbolts lumbering at the edge of their fuel limits. These were not twin-boom lightnings struggling to turn home. These were Mustangs. North American P-51s. In that instant, as contrails stitched white scars across the sky, Kogler understood something no briefing had prepared him for. This was not just another mission. This was the collapse of a belief. The end of a system of assumptions that had kept Germany fighting in daylight since 1939. The Americans were not merely coming for Berlin. They had arrived with fuel to spare. 730 heavy bombers of the 8th Air Force were on a direct course for the capital. Not a feint. Not a turn away toward secondary targets. This time, Berlin was the target, and for the first time in history, single-engine fighters were escorting bombers all the way there, and all the way home. The shock had been building for weeks, though few in the Luftwaffe High Command were willing to see it. In January, Major Hermann Graf had reported encounters with American single-engine fighters near Brunswick, far deeper than their supposed range. His report was dismissed as combat fatigue. Then came sightings near Hanover. Then Magdeburg. Each time, the Reich Air Ministry explained it away. Misidentifications. Twin-engine aircraft. Hallucinations. A February directive even warned pilots that claims of single-engine fighters deep inside Germany could lead to medical evaluation. The truth was far more dangerous than any imagined conspiracy. In Ohio, at Wright Field, American engineers had solved a problem German calculations said could not be solved. They had not broken the laws of physics. They had exploited them. The P-51 Mustang, married to the Packard-built Merlin engine, was a different creature entirely. The engine was not just a copy of the British Merlin but an improved version, built to astonishing tolerances on American production lines. It delivered power at altitude the Luftwaffe could scarcely believe. More importantly, it did so reliably, thousands of times over. And then there were the drop tanks. Simple. Elegant. Disposable. Made of laminated paper and resin, absurdly light, cheap enough to throw away, and strong enough to carry fuel all the way to Berlin. German engineers had designed metal tanks, heavy, reusable, and performance-killing. The Americans treated fuel tanks like ammunition. Use them. Drop them. Move on. The result was a fighter that could cruise on external fuel, arrive over the target with full internal tanks, jettison the drag in seconds, and fight at full power for half an hour before turning for home. The Mustang did not arrive over Germany exhausted. It arrived fresh. The psychological weight of this revelation cannot be understood without remembering October 14, 1943. Black Thursday. Schweinfurt. 60 B-17s destroyed in a single day. Hundreds of airmen killed or captured. The Luftwaffe believed it had proven daylight bombing unsustainable. Even Adolf Galland believed the Americans would have to retreat into the night, trading accuracy for survival. But the Americans did not retreat. They adapted. When Big Week began in February 1944, the Luftwaffe felt the ground shift beneath its feet. Hundreds of Mustangs appeared where no escort had ever flown before. Losses mounted. Experienced pilots died. Missions became running battles from takeoff to landing. There was no safe zone anymore, no place beyond escort range to regroup and attack at leisure. By March 6th, the reckoning arrived over Berlin itself. As Major Thomas Hayes led the 357th Fighter Group through Broken Cloud, he saw German fighters positioning to attack the bombers below, confident and methodical. They did not see the Mustangs above them. Hayes gave the order. Drop tanks fell away in glittering arcs, dozens of them tumbling toward the earth, and the Mustangs dove. The fight was brutally short. The German formation broke apart in confusion, pilots scattering, diving, climbing, trying to escape an enemy that should not have existed. In minutes, the sky belonged to the Americans. 20 German aircraft fell. Not a single Mustang was lost. On the ground, Hermann Göring raged, refusing to believe what was plainly visible even from his own estate. He shouted about sabotage and cowardice. He ordered arrests. He insisted science itself made such escort impossible. But later, in silence, he stood at a window and watched contrails drift across the capital. For the pilots of the Luftwaffe, the impact was devastating. Berlin had been the line. The place where they believed they were safe. When that illusion shattered, nothing replaced it. The Mustangs did not merely escort bombers. They hunted fighters. They loitered. They waited. They followed damaged aircraft home and destroyed them over their own airfields. Worse still, they opened the door to something far more lethal than air combat: fuel starvation. With long-range escort finally assured, American bombers could attack Germany's synthetic fuel plants with precision. Luna, Politz. One by one, they were crippled. Aviation fuel production collapsed. Training hours vanished. New pilots arrived with barely enough time to learn how to take off. By the time of D-Day, the Luftwaffe was already bleeding to death. Over the beaches of Normandy, German fighters were ghosts. 2 aircraft appeared on June 6th. The rest were grounded by lack of fuel, lack of pilots, lack of hope. Desperation bred madness. Armored storm fighters rammed bombers at point-blank range, trading entire units for moments of damage. Jets arrived too late, too few, starved of fuel and hunted on takeoff by Mustangs circling patiently overhead. Every innovation collapsed under the same pressure: American numbers, American reach, American persistence. By 1945, the Luftwaffe was no longer a force. It was a collection of targets. Airfields burned. Aircraft sat wingtip to wingtip, unflyable. Pilots refused missions not out of fear, but because they understood the truth. Taking off meant dying without changing anything. After the war, those who survived spoke with rare honesty. They did not blame the Mustang for being perfect. They blamed it for being everywhere. It erased distance. It erased sanctuary. It erased the belief that Germany could defend its own skies. When the first P-51s appeared over Berlin, something fundamental broke. Not just machines. Not just pilots. But faith. Faith in superiority. Faith in science. Faith in victory. The war in the air did not end that day. But it was decided. High above Brandenburg, where silver fighters once should never have flown, the future arrived on paper drop tanks and Merlin engines, and it stayed.